everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 19, so I'm going to be talking about my 2020 reading plans and TBR. I have a whole stack of books here, but before I get into that, I want to talk about the resolutions and things I want to be conscious of moving forward and really what I'm planning to do in terms of reading in the next year, because I have some pretty big plans. I don't know if I'll be able to follow them because a lot of things for 2020 are up in the air. There's some things that I can't really talk about yet that are up in the air. I have no clue what's going to happen next year, but it could be a huge year for things, so I honestly don't know. But while I might have a lot of changes coming my way, I still do want to try and make reading a priority. One of the big things that I don't know what's going to happen with is twin travel novel. I'm not sure what's going to happen with writing. Writing could completely take over my entire year, and it probably will if everything goes according to plan and everything goes well. I should be on submission soon, early in 2020, so that will mean quite a few rounds of edits. That will mean working with publishers. It will mean I will be busy working on my novel, but that's definitely what I want because I want to have a publication date for you guys. Now, that being said, in terms of my reading, I do still want to try and challenge myself. I just don't want to make it a challenge that will be unattainable. While I'm kind of setting out with this goal now, it might end up changing as the year goes on if things change and I don't have time to dedicate to reading, which very well might happen. I will just switch up my goals, but the goals that I'm going to be talking about today are my kind of ultimate dream goals. So in terms of my Goodreads reading challenge, I know a lot of people don't like doing it, but I enjoy doing it because I like challenging myself, and it's really just about me. Like, I don't really care what anyone else thinks about how much I'm reading or anything. I just like that personal goal and having something to strive to. So in the past years, I haven't really done the Goodreads reading challenge. I've set out with a number. I think in 2018, I said I would read 12 books, which obviously I knew I would end up doing easily. And then last year I set out with a challenge to read 52 books, which is 1 book a week. A very reasonable goal, but once again, something that I could easily attain. Now, I thought that maybe going forward in 2020, I would do the 52 books again, but I think I'm going to challenge myself to read 100 books. I've done it before in the past. I've done it multiple years, but then the past couple of years I haven't read 100 books. So I want to try and get back to that again. That will definitely still be a challenge, but my kind of mindset is 2 books a week is almost 100. It's a little bit more, but maybe having that goal in mind will help me to make reading a priority again, because that's something that I kind of did struggle with a little bit in 2019. So my reading challenge goal that I'm going to set out is 100 books, but if I do end up getting too busy with other things and I see that that goal isn't attainable and it's kind of stressing me out, then I will lower it to 52, which is something that I should be able to do easily. Something that I started doing in 2019 that I definitely want to continue moving forward is DNFing books. It really changed my reading for the better because I didn't feel like I had to trudge through books that I wasn't enjoying just so then I could mark them as finished on Goodreads. Goodreads is my own personal thing. It's something that I use to keep track of my reading. I know you guys can see it too, but I'm not worried about who's looking at it. It's all for me. So maybe it's a little bit controversial, but I will mark the DNF'd books as read on Goodreads. I do put that I DNF'd them, but I put them as read because, I mean, I did dedicate time to it and I don't want that time to go to waste. That was the whole reason why I wasn't DNFing books in the first place, because I was like, well, that was a waste of time. But with me being a goal-oriented person and just keeping myself accountable, I feel like it's fair. So along with continuing to DNF books and be a little bit more critical of the books that I end up continuing with, in terms of what I want to read, I want to get to all of the books that have been on my shelves for ages. I have some books that I haven't read yet and I've been hanging on to because I'm like, one day I'll get to it, for years now, and I want to try and make those books a priority this year. Whether I start those books and end up finishing them, which would be awesome, or I start them and DNF them, they're no longer cluttering up my shelves, and that is great. Speaking of that, I want to try and unhaul more often and kind of do what I call a soft unhaul, which is essentially where I go through my shelves, I take off some books, but I don't completely completely unhaul them. So when I unhaul books, they go to my old high school. I have a library there that I have filled and I continue to fill, but once the books go there, they're completely gone. So my soft unhaul is when I take off those books and I put them in a bin and I put them in my garage or crawl space or wherever, and I keep them still, so I still own them, but I'm kind of gauging my interest. So if I go back to that bin and I see that book, will I be like, yeah, I do actually really want to read this? Or will I be like, no, I think that this can go to another home where someone will be able to give it to the time and love that it deserves. So I'm definitely going to be doing one of those at the beginning of the year. I will do a video for it, definitely look out for it, but it's just to keep my shelves not so clogged because right now they are completely full and I don't have room for anything else. I don't have room anywhere. Speaking of, I want to be more critical about the books that I end up purchasing as well. Now, working at a bookstore was great for a number of reasons, but the one thing was, because I got an employee discount, I was like, oh, well, everything's on sale all the time, so this book sounds cool, so I'm gonna buy it. That book has a pretty cover, so I'm gonna buy it. And like, I'm just a shopaholic. That's just who I am as a human being. So it just wasn't good in the end because I would buy so many books and not be able to get all of them. It was just kind of unrealistic. Now that I don't work at the bookstore anymore, this should be a pretty easy task to be more mindful about what I'm purchasing and only buy books when they're on sale and look out for those deals. That way I won't be buying so many books, and when I do buy them, I will be saving money. So it's kind of a win-win, and also have a limited selection to choose from because only so many will be on sale. You know what I mean? I also want to try and prioritize sequels this year. The past couple of years, I've been horrible about keeping up with sequels, and I think a big part of that is because most of them are fantasies, and fantasy has been a struggle. So I want to also try and fall back in love with fantasy, but ultimately I'm just gonna read whatever I want because reading is supposed to be for fun, so I do want to keep it fun. I just like having goals in mind. But I truly have so many sequels that I need to get to that like is not even funny, so getting to those would be great because it stresses me out having so many. I also want to finish my Harry Potter reread. I started rereading the Harry Potter series late or kind of mid 2019, and I so want to finish it. I'm on book 5, so I have books 5, 6, and 7. Are there 7 books? Yes. I don't know, but the point is I want to finish with them. I don't want to be like, oh, now they've gotten big, so I don't want to read them, which is what I did as a child. I want to actually finish physically reading them because there's some of them that I have never physically read. So I want to change that, especially because I was enjoying my reread so much. So I think at the beginning of 2020, that'll be a great time to get back to that. I think those are all the resolutions that I really wanted to talk about. I would love to know what your resolutions are because sometimes you guys give me some really good ones and I like adding them to my list. I just like having goals. So now getting into the specific books that I would like to get to in 2020. Obviously there are so many out there, but these are just the ones that are kind of at the top of my list. So at the very top, once again, for like the 4th year in a row or something like that, is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I feel like it just wouldn't be a yearly TBR video without this book on it, to be honest. Like at this point, it's been so long and I still haven't read it and I don't know why, and like, oh my gosh, I just need someone to like give me only that book and be like, you can't read anything else until you read that book. But I'm a rebel also, so I don't like people telling me what to do, so who knows when I'll get to it, but I would really like to get to it this year. The sequel has come out and I still haven't read it. Oh. Next is Wicked Like a Wildfire by Lana Popovic. I've had this book forever and I honestly keep it because the cover is beautiful, but it's one of those books where I need to start reading it and see if it's actually worth it or DNF it and kind of get rid of it, but I'm hoping that it will be worth it because this cover is glorious. Next is Brazen by Katherine Longshore, but really any of the Katherine Longshore on my shelves. Katherine Longshore writes kind of like Philippa Gregory, so they're Tudor era romances, historical fictions that are for YA, so she's kind of like the Philippa Gregory for YA, and I've been very interested in reading her books since I was kind of looking for those Tudor era romances for the past couple of years, honestly, but I haven't picked them up yet and I've owned them forever, so I just need to try these books and then see if I'll like them. Like the worst case scenario is I DNF them and whatever, they're not on my shelves anymore, but the best case scenario, I read it and I'm like, this is great. Like my goodness. Actually, speaking of, I want to prioritize old releases, but I also want to try and prioritize new releases, so like Basically, I want to read everything is what we're getting from this video. What else is new? Next is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I tried listening to the audiobook for this and I wasn't enjoying it, so I need to sit down and try and physically read it and see if it will be something that I like. This might be one that I end up DNFing, I'm not sure. I know so many people love it so much, but this is another book that a sequel has come out and I haven't gotten the chance to read the first one yet, but I really just need to decide if this is a story for me or if I don't like it, and that will involve actually reading it. Next is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I feel like I've included this on many a TBR video as well because it's just a really big epic fantasy, so it intimidates me. And I read Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, enjoyed it so much that I'm like, why haven't I given this the chance yet? And I guess part of it is probably because it's so hyped up, so I'm very intimidated by that, but I also think it will be something that I will like. I liked the other book that I read of his, so why not the fantasy? Why not this one? I just need to suck it up and like try and read at least one fantasy a month if I can. That would be great. And also try and not do them on audiobook because I'm kind of in the habit of mostly doing them on audio. Speaking of fantasy, next is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. I had this book, I unhauled it, and then I repurchased it and I still haven't read it. So once again, this is one I need to sit down and decide if it's for me. I tried the audiobook, wasn't working for me, so I want to give it a chance physically reading it. It's like time travel and fantasy and all of that sounds great, and I know some people who have very much enjoyed it, so it's definitely one that I would like to get to this year. Next is The Looking Glass Wars by Frank Beddor. I have been wanting to do a video for a couple of years now where I talk about Alice in Wonderland retellings and my personal favorites, and I have been holding off on doing that video until I read this book, and like I can remember the reading vlog when I hauled this book and it was a long time ago, so the fact that I haven't gotten the chance to read this yet and do that video is just, it's ridiculous at this point. A lot of you guys have recommended this to me and I guess I'm just afraid that I won't like it, but like, I don't know, it's not that bad. Like if I don't like it, I don't like it. But it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling, so like worst case scenario, I'm back in the Alice world. Actually, I also want to reread Alice and Through the Looking Glass this year because I didn't reread in 2019, I don't think, and that was the first year in a long time that I haven't reread it, so I'm due for a reread. Next is Uprooted by Naomi Novak. This is a, I don't even know if it's actually a retelling, but it's a sort of fantasy, like fairy tale is the word that I'm searching for. Adult fantasy story, and I have had this for quite a little bit now, and once again, I just want to see if I'd like it. Next is Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren. As you guys know, 2019 was the year of adult romance, and I do plan on continuing with reading it in 2020 because I was enjoying it so much. So this is the last Christina Lauren book that I'm interested in that I haven't read yet. I'm not really interested in her Beautiful Bastard series. I think I read the first one a long time ago. I don't even remember, but this is the last one on my TBR, and they have a new book coming out in, oh, I just filmed that video and I can't even remember when it was, but I think it's coming out in May, but if I can get to that before that new one comes out, that'd be great. And finally are just a few sequels. I have so many, but I just picked kind of the top 3 that came to mind. First being Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I got so far with the Throne of Glass series that at this point I'm like, if I don't finish, it's ridiculous. And this book has been out for going on 2 years now, so like, how have I not read it? And like, I know it's because it's really big and I don't remember anything that happened in the previous books, so I'll probably have to do a whole series reread, and that just is like, oh, but maybe I can get away with just rereading Tower of Dawn and then reading this one. We'll see. But I definitely do want to finish the series. Like, come on, I got this far. I need to hold out and finish the whole thing. Next is Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson. I have had this on, once again, many a TBR video. It is the final book of the Remnant Chronicles series, and I have the other one I'll have to reread before getting to this one, but I enjoyed the first one so much. I don't remember anything about the second one, but I know it was a world that I liked being in, and I do have the companion series, so no excuses. And finally is The Reluctant Queen by Sarah Beth Durst. I have both of the final books of this Queens of Renthia series. It's an adult fantasy. I read Queen of Blood a couple years ago, really loved it. It was great. So I pre-ordered both sequels and like they showed up on my doorstep and I was like, oh, oh, I need to finish these because why haven't I read them yet? So those are all of the books that I'm hoping to read in 2020, and those are all of my resolutions as well. Like I said, please do let me know what your resolutions are. I love to know. I'm very interested in that. And also let me know if you have read any of these books, your thoughts on them, and what is on the top of your 2020 TBRs. So if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to click that subscribe button, then click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I'm posting 21 videos over the course of December, so you can get caught up on those in the playlist linked down below. You can also follow me on all of my social media. All of my handles and links are down below for you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!